Folks, this is James from Lycanthro here, and you are watching RichardMetalFan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 203 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with my good friend James Delbridge from the band Lycanthro. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm great, man. How about you? Thank you so much for having me.
Not too doing pretty well, man. It's a great Friday night. I'm just chilling at home, and decided to do an interview with my buddy.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you. And I must say, I'm loving the background all there, all the records and the Funko Pops and the posters. I dig it.
Yeah, it's mostly like posters I would like snatch from. Like there's this venue in Atlanta, Georgia called the Masquerade. Like they would always have like posters for like upcoming shows and stuff, and I would like snatch every one of them and like hang them up, put them up on my
Hmm.
walls. And sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah, you were saying.
yeah. We have a similar thing here. Like a lot of the big metal shows are at a venue here in Ottawa called Brass Monkey, and I do the same thing, but only if it's like shows we play.
Yeah.
So if it's a show we play, I'll usually steal a poster and keep it for old time's sake, you know.
Yeah, yeah, same. And if there's like bands that are like doing like a meet and greet or something, I would like actually take the poster and have like the band sign it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a few of those. I when we opened for Hammerfall, I had that, and I have one when we opened for Flotsam and Jetsam as well. This was few years ago though. So
Oh wow. Yeah, and these Funko Pops, I have like a ton. I mostly have like Iron Maiden stuff. I have like forget which one. It's one I think somebody sent me as a gift, but I don't even know idea who it is, so it was a surprise. All right, and then there's a couple I had like the big like album looking ones.
oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
one with
Those
the
are
Power Slave right in the corner. I don't know how well you could see it. Yeah,
yeah. It's
right
hard
over
it's
here.
hard to see them, but yeah, but I know which one you're talking about.
I'll probably
Yeah,
send you like a picture afterwards. And I
sweet.
got a
I have
couple Slayer, Slipknot. I have like a Black Sabbath one, Ozzy. I have a couple Linkin Park ones just for nostalgia.
like sweet. I have only five, and none of them have to do with music. It's like
Yeah.
I have two from I have like Freddy Krueger. I have Spike from Cowboy Bebop, and I have Inuyasha from Inuyasha.
Yeah. I have a couple non-music ones. I have actually have one of a Wonder Woman, and I have a Sly Cooper one, which just was one of my favorite video games I
They
used to
made a
play as a
Sly
kid.
Cooper one.
Yeah, I think I got
Wow,
one like a year. I saw a year or two ago. I ordered it off of I forget. I think it was like
wow.
GameStop, and then they had it. And I was like, shit, I need to get this.
The one that I want to get, because I don't really get them often, but the one I want to get next is probably some of the Godzilla ones, because I love kaiju movies, so I want to get like the Godzilla and Mothra ones.
Yeah, and of course, like the vinyls and stuff. I have like over 300 vinyls I've been collecting for about 6 years.
Yeah, I said you have a lot more than me. I got like maybe two and a half shelves of vinyl, and they're like small shelves. So
Yeah, and I have a like almost 3,000, well, almost 3,000 CDs. Like there's this big wall right behind me right here.
god damn.
There, and then there's the rest I couldn't fit is like on this shelf right behind me.
Oh sweet man.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah, that's sort of like my little setup. And I definitely like your little setup. I see like a Merciful Fate poster
Yep. Yep.
and I can't even see what other shit you got.
It's like merciful. My wall's very weird because it's like obviously I'm a power metal guy, but I have like at least in this shot here, it's like Merciful Fate. On the far side, there's like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Grim Reaper, Fate's Warning, The Gathering. I think those are the only ones that are in the shot. So
Yeah. I have a few like kind of like diverse. I have like some like progressive thing on the side. I have like Between the Buried and Me, Born of Osiris, and then the back I have a couple Epica ones. And then the shelf next to me I have an Ensiferum, Flesh God Apocalypse, Children of Bodom, Camelot one. And then and I do have like a little hint of like Mellow Death with like Dark Tranquility. I have and Unleash the Archers, your fellow Canadians right
oh
there.
yes.
And then Seven Spires.
I'm guessing you're very stoked for Prog Power next year, then, eh? Because
Hell
Death
yeah,
Metal will be
yeah.
playing.
Hell yeah. Actually did an interview with their drummer.
Oh, sweet,
Yeah, I've interviewed all five members.
sweet. Ironically, they're the band on day two I'm the least familiar with, actually.
Yeah.
because I like Melodeath, but it's not like my go-to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was like, that's pretty much like I was kind of iffy at it first, but then it kind of grew on me. Same thing with like some power metal. Like I used to be kind of thought it was kind of cheesy, but over time I it grew on me. I mean, now I love like Dragon Force, Blind Guardian, and Unleash the Archers.
Best stuff.
Yeah, but the good shit, man.
Oh
Man,
yeah.
that's always the best.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of like the format is, I want to talk about like your musical history as well. I want to talk about the history of Lycanthro. So, kind of growing up in Ottawa, what were like the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to be a vocalist and guitarist?
Okay, so that started very early, like on in life. Actually, like I remember my earliest memory of music and wanting to be a musician was when I was like 6 or 7 years old. Where I remember this is the story I always tell is that I was in my room, probably like playing Pokemon or something, and
I catch them all.
my dad calls me downstairs and he parks my ass in front of the TV and he's like, "Hey, I want to show you something." And he put on Queen live at Wembley Stadium,
Amazing.
and I watched the whole thing. And I remember afterwards, I saw Freddie Mercury and I saw Brian May, and I was like, "That's what I want to be." You know, I want to be. I don't know if it'll be vocals or guitar, but that's what I want to be. And then later on, for in terms of metal, it was my uncle because my dad's side of the family is all British, and obviously, the birthplace of heavy metal.
Yes.
And my uncle was a metalhead back in the 70s. So all the 70s bands from the UK he saw. He saw Deep Purple, Black Sabbath with Ozzy. He saw Judas Priest before they even ever put out British Steel, before they made it big in the States.
Holy
Um,
shit, that's
yeah,
awesome.
he saw Thin Lizzy 8 times. One of the times is when they recorded Live and Dangerous. He was there for that.
Wow.
Uh, he saw the one that I'm most jealous of is he saw Rainbow live.
Yeah,
So
that I'd be
yeah,
jealous too.
oh yeah, Rainbow. So the main bands that he showed me, my uncle showed me that were resonated more with me. It was like Rainbow, UFO, Thin Lizzy, Judas, especially Judas Priest, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of my how I wanted to why I wanted to become a metal musician, because it was like it was sort of the progression of, okay, I saw Freddie Mercury and Brian May. Like, I know I want to be a singer. I know I want to be a guitar player, but I didn't know you could be both. And then I saw Rob Halford, and that's like, okay, I want to be a singer like him. That sort of style, that sort of look. And
Yeah.
then when I discovered Megadeth, even though Mustaine isn't known for being the greatest singer in the world,
Yeah.
I saw, oh, someone can do both. You know,
Yeah.
I've seen someone who can, because again, like, full disclosure, I was always more of a Megadeth guy than a Metallica guy. So when
Me
I saw,
too.
yeah, well, it's because, like, no disrespect to Metallica, but, like, Hetfield's great, but Mustaine was like, I want to be able to sing, but also play as intricately as him. So
Yeah.
that was sort of the early inspirations for
Yeah.
me, for sure.
Yeah, when it terms to like like out putting out albums and the consistency, it is mega. I agree with Megadeth for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure, I mean, of
And also
course,
because
like Rust
Megadeth
in
just had
Peace is my all-time favorite album, by the way.
Oh, I'm not surprised. It For the longest time it was in my top 5 for sure. Like, Rust in Peace is legendary.
Yeah, yeah. Even like I funny enough, my top four albums are like the big four. Like, of course, Megadeth being number one, and then Rain and Blood by Slayer, Master Puppets, Metallica, and then Among the Living by Anthrax. Those are like in like top
Oh,
four albums,
like, they're each band's most famous album pretty much.
pretty much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sweet. That's freaking great.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, and so tell me about like your first bands that you were in. Like were you in bands like pre Lycanthro?
Yeah, yeah, I was so Lycanthro is sort of okay, so the story goes is that Lycanthro sort of was arose from the ashes of my old band. So like I would jam with people here and there when I was in high school and stuff. But my first band was I was in like the 11th grade, I think, and we weren't power metal, we were thrash, because I actually hadn't even discovered power metal at that point.
Yeah.
Um we were a thrash band. We were sort of like I wanted us to be like melodic thrash because I was never really heavy into the really like I know this might be sacrilege for some people, but I was never really into Slayer or any of those kinds of bands. I was always I resonated more towards like well Megadeth because of the guitar work, but like into like Anthrax and bands like that where they had more of the melodic side of things. You know, where it was like, oh, it was fast and heavy, but they had a melodic singer. And so yeah, so we were called Death Wish.
Yeah.
That was our
That
name. We were
that
called
was a
Death.
hell of a name. Sounds like a name of a hardcore band. Yeah, we're
Funny
Death
enough,
Wish.
funny thing is enough, it is a hardcore band.
Oh, wow. That was just
Apparently there's a band in the States that they're called Death Wish, but it's all one word and in all of them it's all lowercase, and they're
oh,
apparently a hardcore band.
oh, that
But
was just
yeah,
a coincidence.
yeah, well, what happened was is that the story I always tell is that Lycanthro started when my old band again high school band broke up as they always do, and I remember when I got a lineup together of what would have been like started was like the precursor to Lycanthro was when I was in college. When I was in college, I got a group of guys together, and we were still called Deathwish for the first like 6 months to a year of the band's existence. But then I remember the story I tell was when I was in college, I used to the bus stop I used to take to get to school was at this local mini mall. And the bus system, for those of you watching who don't know much about Canada, the bus system in Ottawa is the worst in North America. And there
Damn.
would be times where I would go there and I'd have to wait like half an hour, 45 minutes for the bus to go to school. And so I would kill time by there was a record store in this mini mall. And I remember one day I was flipping through the metal section and I found an album called At the Edge of Damnation, and it was by a band called Death Wish. And I looked them up on Metal Archives, and they were like a obscure British thrash metal band from like the late '80s. And I thought, okay, well, I found obscure or not, I found this in an Ottawa record store. We need to change our name. And so that's kind of how Lycanthro started was I kind of came up with I always had a big affinity for wolves and werewolves, so I always wanted to have a name similar to that. I wanted to have a name that no other band had in the world. Like I literally when we were coming up with names, I would literally do extensive research on if a band already has that name, you know?
Yeah.
So and the name we ended up coming up with was there was like the word lycanthrope, which with the PE at the end
Yeah.
and there's tons of bands called that. So I thought, oh, what if we take the PE off the end, lycanthro? That kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
So
Has a bit of a
that's
ring to it.
yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how that started. And for the first so I think lycanthro officially started as a band in like 2018. I want to say something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Well,
So
according to Metal Archives, it was actually from 2016 to it's under Lycanthro,
oh,
but really,
wow.
yeah.
I forgot about that. The
Yeah.
years can't get skewed, but yeah, I guess so. Yeah, 2016 would have been our first year, but we didn't do much that year. We didn't really start going hard until like probably late 2017, early 2018.
Yeah. So I guess like the first thing I want to talk about is, of course, in January of 2017, you released your self-titled little demo. So tell me about like that. I was listening to it in preparation for this interview. It's just very raw sounding. So where was
Oh,
that recorded at?
oh God. I thought I got rid of that. It's a really crappy demo that we just did in my friend's basement, It's like typical college age kids who we didn't have any money for recording. And I think I'd like just started in college for audio production at that point. So we just recorded it in our friend's basement pretty much and made a couple of CDs to sell at shows. It's just the typical small band just starting to learn the ropes sort of thing. I can't listen to that anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was an experience, but obviously, some of those songs we refined and obviously put it on the first actual album. So
Yeah. Yeah, you just want to because usually you're like your own you're like your own you are your own worst critic. You always try to like look at your some I know some bands look at their older stuff like, ugh, what were we thinking?
Hmm. Yeah, like that's how I feel about like even though it's embarrassing, there's some bands that, there's some bands that are really successful now that had the same thing. Like out of curiosity, and this is before half the members that are in the band now joined, I looked up Unleash the Archer's first demo, which you can still find on YouTube, and it was back when it was just Brittany and Scott and a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. The recording was really bad, really raw. The songs were great, obviously, but like the production wasn't there yet. So I think that's sort of like um I heard the term musical puberty. It's like your musical awkward phase. So
Yeah.
that's the term I've heard from. It was actually Lindsay was the one who told me that term. Actually, she was like, for those who are watching, Lindsay Schoolcraft,
Yeah.
the
My
ex,
homie.
yeah. Well, she's doesn't live that far from me, so she's a good friend as well, and she's the one who
Yeah.
said that. She's the one who coined that term, the musical puberty. Everyone at some point goes through it.
Oh wow, I never knew that. So how I'm always curious, like, because I know she lives in Oshawa and you live in Ottawa. How far is that?
About 3 hours.
Damn. And
Yeah,
how's like yeah, I'm not like don't know my geography, but how far is like Ottawa from like Toronto?
Toronto is 4 hours. So
Oh,
Ottawa, there's Ottawa to Toronto. Oshawa is an hour from Toronto.
oh wow. Because I
So
feel
like
like
if you
yeah, you were saying
yeah, so it's like if you drive Ottawa, you go down the highway and you keep going west. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, west. Keep going west, and about Oshawa is what you hit when you get like about 3 hours, 3.5 hours in. So it's really close to Toronto. It's about an hour or 45 minutes away from Toronto proper.
yeah, yeah, because I don't really know my geography well because I know Ottawa is like pretty much like the capital of like the whole country of Canada.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because I'm not really that familiar. I know it. There's like big things to look at, like the Parliament and shit. Shit, have
Hmm.
you ever been to the Parliament? I've seen like pictures online. And it looks
Oh
fucking
yeah, of course.
beautiful.
Everybody has. Yeah, it's just although the photos you see online are completely different than how it is now. It's because I haven't been around that area in a long time. Like I used to go to downtown a lot for shows, but like a lot of shows aren't done there anymore.
Yeah,
So what I mean by that is that like that venue I mentioned, the Brass Monkey, that's like pretty close to me. It's
yeah,
in like a subdivision, but for reasons I won't get into on here, like the main metal venue downtown, everybody in the metal scene pretty much boycotted it. So all the promoters, everybody. So all the whenever a major touring act comes through, they always put it at the Brass Monkey, and people travel from there. So I haven't been down there in a long time, but in the photos it looks very nice, and it used to look very nice, but now because as we know, not to get political on here, I'm just saying this because it's the truth, is because of a lot of the shit that's happened over the past few years with COVID and stuff like that. I'm sure the whole world heard about the trucker rally and stuff.
well,
So
that's
that
news to
area
me.
looks, huh?
It's news to me.
Oh, I thought the whole world knew about that. Yeah, so during COVID there was this huge mass protest outside of Parliament Hill because of the COVID restrictions. And they say it was about the COVID restrictions, but in reality it was just a bunch of it wasn't. But they've like erected walls around Parliament Hill. You can't even get near it anymore. So, and it's because they were worried about people storming Parliament Hill, so that kind of like what they did in the Capitol building in Washington. Like there was a genuine fear at one point of that actually happening. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. And I notice like whenever like bands like do major tours, I feel like Ottawa doesn't get enough love. It's always like when a band like tours Canada, it's mostly on the East Coast. It's mostly they hit like Toronto and Montreal. I have no idea why they hate Ottawa so much.
that's it. That's it. Well, it's because there's just more money to be made in those other two cities. Montreal and Toronto have much bigger populations. They have a lot more. Those cities are a lot more like cultural. Like so, the thing with Ottawa is that Ottawa is very much a government town, and so 90% of the people who work here, who live here, are government workers. And if you're not a government worker, you're a tech worker. So it's usually like 90 to 95% of the people who live here is one of the two. And so, and Ottawa, and I'm not saying this to shit on this metal scene because the metal scene here is actually really good. Like for what it is. Like as I said, when Leash Archers came here, it was sold out. Whenever a big band does come here, it always will sell out. The turnout will always be really good.
At the once in a
So
blue moon.
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
happens. It's really great when it does, but it doesn't happen as often as we'd like, you know. So, but the best thing is if you want to go see a major tour, Montreal is not far. Like Montreal is only a 2-hour drive. So usually, whenever any of us want to go see any of those big tours, we just go to Montreal. It's very drivable in a night. Like you drive there, see the show, drive back the same night.
Yeah.
Very doable. I've done it many times. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought anytime like a band's not coming to Ottawa, he was like, well, gotta go to Montreal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely would like to. I'd like to visit like the east coast of Canada. Like about a month ago, I got my passport, so I definitely need to make a trip up to good old Canada.
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah, gotta give me the tour, buddy.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Yeah, but kind of like to talk about your discography. I guess next up is your EP from 2018, Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I feel like you definitely kind of like find or try to made what Lycanthro was. So what was that sort of like the thought process going into making that?
Yeah, so Force the Apocalypse was very much a it was very ambitious for our experience at the time. It was it was sort of a concept EP or very loose concept EP or whatever where the whole idea was, oh, let's do 4 songs and each one be about each Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. That was our old guitar player. It was his idea for to do that. And we thought it was cool and he wrote one of the songs on there and I wrote the other 3. And very much it was sort of like I wanted to capture sort of with each song the feel of what each plague would be like, you know. And so that's why like Fog of War is very much like a more faster like metal song than like Plague the Land is very much more melancholic, and then Pale Rider, the last track, is obviously very big and epic and stuff like that. It was
Yeah.
very ambitious for what we knew at the time because I remember now, because back then, I don't know what I was thinking back then, because back then I was like, yeah, 14-minute song, let's go. And then now I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe I wrote a song that long.
Yeah. I consider it like you all's like Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. I think it's probably like y'all's, I guess I could say it, masterpiece, so to speak.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially love like I feel like every like part of that song it just goes really well, especially with like the piano segment and then the strong emotions and the musicianship. There's just really great. I feel like just I feel like I get like totally different vibes with that song.
thanks so much, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, that song is a song I'd like to resurrect at some point because the idea that we had at some point to do maybe as like bonus tracks or something is to re-record a lot of those songs with better production, stuff like that, and a lot more like just to give them the due justice they deserve and kind of present them in a way of like, okay, we're more musically mature now, so here's these songs in a more musically mature production and setting. So I want to revisit Pale Rider at some point because I am very proud of that song, but we haven't touched it in a long time just because you know it's hard to play live because it takes up half the set.
Yeah.
so yeah, so we'll probably revisit those songs at excuse me, we'll revisit those songs at some point. But right now, obviously, we're just looking forward to all the new material that we got. So
Yeah. And then of course you start playing locally around I guess like Ontario and stuff, and then of course that certain virus that I refuse to name happened. So during that time, did you start like working on the actual debut full length album, Mark of the Wolf?
Mark of the Wolf, we were already working on before the plague happened. So pretty much we started record. So what happened was is the by the time the thing that shall not be named happened, um, we had the guitars and drums and bass, all the instruments were recorded. The only thing that hadn't been recorded were vocals. And then it happened, and then I ended up having to do the vocals just from home, like with my own setup. And then I found out that I actually preferred to do that than be in a studio because I have a lot more control, and I have a lot more of a, since obviously we all say we're our own worst critics. So usually when it comes to recording vocals, I'm very much prefer my own criticalness, because if I think it's good, then I know that it's good, because I know some people, an engineer will be like, okay, that was good, next. I'm like, no, but that wasn't good though. You know. So yeah, I recorded just the vocals over the pandemic. And yeah, so we spent most of the pandemic just sort of trying to get back on our feet and doing the promo stuff. And it was also, again, because of the restrictions, that we couldn't even shoot a music video until afterwards, you know, which sucked. But yeah, no, so but I think the process was very interesting, but it it turned out very well, because we obviously had to think outside the box in terms of recording and promoting and stuff like that. So Mark of the Wolf was very much a very interesting experience, but again, it was a product that we are proud of. So
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, like, you got signed to the little label called Alone Records, which I was like looking it up. Apparently, they're from Greece. So, how did they find Lycanthro?
yeah, so Alone, they hit us up right after Four Horsemen came out. Actually, it was right after Four Horsemen came out, literally like a week after it came out, and that they just emailed us and said, "Hey, we really like your stuff, and we want to sign you to like a deal." It was like a per album deal, where it was like a different contract for a different album, and the deal was sweet. It was pretty much like, you know, we got a bunch of, you know, free stock from them and stuff. They made, like, they manufactured the CDs and a lot of the merch and stuff. And so it was basically a deal of like us getting like a lot of the stuff that we for free, so we wouldn't have to pay for them ourselves, which was very nice. And yeah, Emmanuel is a very nice dude to work with. The only thing that I will say about Alone is that it's they didn't really do much on the promotional front. They were kind of there almost like an investor almost, you know. They were like, okay, we're gonna provide you with this stuff, like the CDs and the merch and all this stuff, and we're very thankful for that, you know. So they treated us very well in that regard. But yeah, and it was cool because we shared a label with a lot of that label. Like Alone was sort of like, they're a good beginner label. Like we shared a lot of bands from the States on that label. It was like us and like um like Judicator, and even they even had some bigger bands on there, like not on the label, but like they had like their main thing was reissues. Like their main thing was they would get the licensing for some old like Jag Panzer albums and Nevermore albums, and they would do reissues. That was their main thing. But the guy had a couple of hand-picked bands on there that he liked, that he wanted to support, and so I have nothing bad to say about Alone. So they were a good experience for sure.
Yeah, yeah, but talk me about like making Mark of the Wolf. Wolf. I think that like it's probably like like I feel like you all hit the ground running, being as it has the debut kind of like charm, and I feel like you definitely find yourself from, of course, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse EP and even the self-titled demo. So with that, did you want to also try something new or different with Mark of the Wolf?
Yeah, yeah. It's my main thing is with every release, I want us obviously not musically to top the last one, but also in production value. You know, because I'm someone that I went to school for audio, and I do audio work here and there. So I'm very much in the sense of like, I want each release to top the last one in terms of production value. And yeah, Mark of the Wolf was very much like that, because, you know, we went and recorded, we did the same thing with Four Horsemen. We went and recorded it in an actual professional studio. But we spent more time there on this, obviously. And we hired you know, we like took the time to actually hire a refined mixing engineer that wasn't like a buddy of ours, you know, who and then yeah, so we just tried to uh sort of present we my the way I see Mark of the Wolf is I want to present it, it's like the first era of Lycanthro, because I like to think that we've changed a lot as a band since then. And it's very much like the when we were not power metal yet, we were more just like a your typical like heavy metal, thrash metal-y kind of band. So I kind of consider Mark of the Wolf as like the first era of Lycanthro, and then the final track, Evangelion, I kind of figured that that's sort of the spill off into power metal. So that's kind of what I consider in terms of what when we made Mark of the Wolf and the process and stuff. And it was a very again, it was a very interesting process because, you know, there was the pandemic and there was a lot of things working against us, as there were of every musician on earth. And but we got through it, as I said, and yeah, like it's very much yeah, as I said, it's very much like the first stepping stone for us.
Yeah, and the album as a whole is just really well done. I especially love like the elements of like you mentioned. There's also the hints of like power metal with also like the melody added to it, but also hints of thrash metal. So it's fair to say that like you and everybody sort of like brings like a different influence into Lycanthro.
Yeah, like one of the things is that a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of those songs on there I actually wrote at a very young age. I wrote a lot of them when I was like a teenager, you know? I wrote a lot of those songs when I was like 17, 18. And and those songs are, you know, very because when I was in school, when I was a kid, I was a thrash kid. Like I was very much a thrash kid. I was very much like, even though I joked about earlier, it's like, oh, I wasn't into like Slayer and all that, but like when I was in high school, my main influences was like I loved Megadeth, I loved Overkill, I loved Anthrax, you know. So it was very much that, but I always liked the more me trying to combine that with the more melodic sensibilities. Like again, when I was younger, I always loved a lot of the more melodic, almost bordering on hair metal bands like Dawkins and Def Leppard and Triumph and stuff like that. So it was sort of like an amalgamation of those two things. It was like it's like thrash and like very melodic-y rock, almost hair metal combined into one, and then yeah, that was sort of the whole goal with the sound, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, and I definitely love like you like as far as like having like almost kind of also has like a very kind of like old school kind of like sound to it. I feel like a lot of like bands nowadays are sort of like bringing sort of like almost kind of like the old school kind of metals back on the scene. So how is that the reception from like the fans that like Lycanthro?
It was really good. It was really good. I remember you know, I don't fully remember. That was such a hectic time that I don't completely remember the a lot of the things that happened post the album coming out. But in terms of reception, it was really well because like after we put it out, that was my first time ever promoting an album, you know, so we tried a bunch of different things to get more eyes on it. And the thing I used to do was I started doing a lot of those Instagram lives where I got like people from bands that I liked to do, you know, live streams with me and chat with them and
I
stuff.
remember
And
seeing a couple of those.
yeah, like I've done like some with Lindsay and Adrian and a few
Yeah.
others. And yeah, and that grew our fan base exponentially. And so everyone who's heard it has said has had a very positive response to it. And I'm very glad that you know, people have responded to it well. So for as I said, for a first album, I think we did. I think it was very. I think it was a very solid effort for sure. But we're obviously very much looking forward to the future and what the future holds. You know.
Yeah, definitely. And I also love how like a lot of the newer bands are bringing sort of like that 80s kind of metal vibe back. Like there's this other band, I don't know if you heard of them. They're a band called Cobra Spell. They're from the Netherlands.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know Cobra Spell. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm hopefully to try to interview Sonia, yeah, because I think she's an amazing guitarist. I have like their two EPs. I've actually pre-ordered their new album, which I'm looking forward to, and they're pretty much like feels like I've transported back into like the 80s when I first heard them, and they're really great. I really hope they come and tour the States. I really want to see them live.
Yeah, they kind of. I've heard some of their newer stuff, and they kind of remind me of they're like if Wasp were all chicks,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do like Cobra Spell. Like I remember when it came out during the pandemic. Addicted to the Night. Like I do really like Cobra Spell. They're really sick. Another
Yeah.
band that's like that I'll always shout out to is Burning Witches.
Oh, I
I'm a
love Burning Witches. Another
huge Burning
great band.
Witches fan. They're another one that they're sort of like that. Bringing that old school sort of sensibilities. And hell, even though another one we could say is even though they don't sound the same as let's say Cobra Spell or Burning Witches, but Beast in Black,
Yeah. They were
another one.
great at when we saw them at Prague Power.
Oh my God, yeah, like they were. I'd seen them twice before I saw them at Prague Power, but
Yeah.
Prague Power was the best I think out of all of them. But
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
it
They
was
were
yeah.
good, but they were good. But I feel like they played almost too long.
I think it was just because they were playing their they played because even though Prague Power was like the first day of their tour,
Yeah.
um they played their tour set because I looked up the next day and they played the exact same set the next day. So I think that was just a case of they didn't play too long. I think it was just because since there were four bands before them, everyone was kind of tired. While normally on that tour they only had one opening band and then they played that long ass set.
Yeah.
So I think it was just a case of like I don't think it was long. I think it was just everyone was tired at that point.
Yeah. I definitely was, but I was like, guess I'm gonna watch Beast in Black, and they're great because I was supposed to. They were supposed to do the headlining tour last year. I was supposed to see them in April last year, but their singer had gotten COVID, so they canceled the Atlanta show, and I was like, God damn it.
Yeah. Obviously, that stuff happens, and yeah, Beast in Black were definitely one of the best bands this year at Prague Power. I remember one of my favorite things I got to do because, for those of you watching who have talked to me for more than 10 minutes, I'm a gigantic weeb, and I love anime and Japanese metal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember going up to Anton because he's obviously very known to be the same and obviously a lot of their songs are based off like Berserk and stuff like that. So I remember I like shook his hand and did the whole, you're a big inspiration to me, blah blah blah. And then I just said to him like, I wanted to say this to you for years. Griffith did nothing wrong, and then he just starts laughing. So, which I wonder how many people watching this will get that reference, but it's because it's a Berserk meme, and I was like, I wanted to say this to you for years.
Yeah, because I used to like watch like anime a bunch when I was a kid. Because growing up there was like a Cartoon Network back in the day. There was had this block called Toonami, and they
Oh
had
yeah,
like all
Toonami, yeah.
yeah, they had like all the anime. That's how I discovered around the time when I saw Dragon Ball Z for the first time. I discovered Naruto. I think One Piece. Yes, I was like really big into that. That nowadays not so much. I mean, there's like a couple handfuls I like, but as a whole, I'm not really into it as much nowadays.
Hey, fair enough.
Yeah, yeah, but kind of like your most least recent thing you did a cover of Running Wild's Port Royal, which I thought that was like a really good cover. You almost kind of like made it your own in a way. And when I saw Port Royal, I was thinking, Pirates of the Caribbean, but no, I apparently was Running Wild.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me about like that. What made you guys decide to do like a cover?
Right. So that was a really cool thing. So during the pandemic, there was a really small label over in I want to say no, it's not Hungary. Where was it? Crap. I don't remember where it was, but there was a label who the guy who owned the label. It was this dude named Zoltan who I'm good friends with. I haven't heard from him in a long time, but one thing he used to do is he used to do these tribute albums, like and he did a Halloween one and he did a Gamma Ray one, and the most recent one he did was a Running Wild one, and pretty much what it was like underground tributes. Like he'd get a bunch of undergroundy bands to and they'd pick a song and they'd do a cover of it and they'd put it on the compilation. It's a tribute album. So he asked us to be on the Running Wild tribute album. And the thing that I remember him being slightly disappointed about was because he was kind of encouraging us to be like, oh, I want more like obscure songs, like more like deep cuts from them. And I'm like, no, but dude, like I got it. We got to do Port Royal. Like that's my favorite Running Wild song. So we did Port Royal for that originally, and that came out. It came out on cassette, that was fun. And yeah, we just did it just as a fun thing during the pandemic, and just to have something to put out, since we hadn't put out anything in a while. And it was mixed by Jack from Seven Spires, and he did an
Yeah.
amazing job, as he always does.
Yeah.
And yeah, and with that song, obviously we tried to make it, or we tried to add the keyboards and stuff that weren't in the original. And yeah, no, and Running Wild is one of my favorite bands. So they are, I wanted to do the song justice. And what we decided to do was release it as a single after about a few months after the compilation came out, because they didn't really post it anywhere. I think it was just for like people who bought the physical product. So I found a guy on a Running Wild fan group on Facebook who did like some art, and I said, "Yo, how about you recreate the Port Royal album cover, but instead of the five guys, it's five werewolves."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yes." And then so that's when we did the Running Wild cover. And I remember we pulled it out when we played at Hyperspace as well, since that's like, the Canadian equivalent of Prog Power.
Yeah.
And we pulled it out there since it's that kind of audience. So yeah, no, it was just a really fun thing to do, and we obviously all really love Running Wild. Very underrated. They're my even though I've been told they'll never happen, they're my number one dream band for Prog Power.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're one of the bands I definitely want to see live at some point, but you have to go to Europe to see them, because apparently Rolf doesn't like flying. So
Oh, damn. Then we have to like take a boat or something.
yeah, well, it's like Running Wild. They're like one of those bands that they're such a legacy band that I think they only play like big festivals in Europe. Like they only do the fest. They don't tour. They only do like the fest. They'll play like Wacken every 2 years, and they'll play Hellfest and Rock Imperium and all those other Masters of Rock, all those sort of big festivals over there. That's all they do.
Yeah.
But at their age, I don't blame them.
Yeah. 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 I could imagine them at Prog Power. Hell, why we should get Lycanthro to play Prog Power.
Oh man, that would be a dream come true.
Yeah.
Well, all I'll say is that we're really stoked to hear what people think of our new album. That's what we're working on right now, and I'm very confident that it's going to resonate with a lot of people, and a lot of people will enjoy it. So hopefully it'll be able to open some doors for us. So
Yeah.
Frog Power would definitely be a dream for us. I hope that we're able to do it.
Yeah. Hey, Glenn, if you're by any chance watching this, book them, please.
I would be ecstatic for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so as you just mentioned, you are working on the next Lycanthro album. So what is the status with that?
Right. So pretty much we're kind of just taking our time with it. We want to make it as I said, good of a product from a production standpoint as we can. Where the drums are done, my guitars are mostly done. Yeah, and then we're hoping to have the album recorded by the end of the year. And hopefully then we'll obviously do the typical stuff, shop around for labels, get all the pre-order and merch ready and all that. And we're hoping to have a maybe like a fall 2024 release is what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
So like obviously that's almost a year away, but we want to have the ample time to do it right. And
Yeah. Can't half-ass it.
yeah, exactly. And we're gonna do like the typical modern thing where we're gonna release lots and lots of singles, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Just to build the hype.
exactly, yeah. We have a lot of cool things in the works in terms of not only just the music, but like the promotional stuff, the music videos. We just shot a music video about a week and a half ago, and from the samples we've seen, it looks incredible so far. So we want to, as I said, we want to do this right and not half-ass it, and give something. We want to put out an album that hope people will appreciate and people will connect to and resonate with. So yeah, so we're very excited for what the future holds for us, and for the and our new music we're obviously very confident in. So
Right. And do you feel like pressure to follow up Mark of the Wolf? Because usually with the debut full-length album, you have your entire life to write, and there's a lot of hype with the first album. Do you feel like pressure to follow up Mark of the Wolf going into this next album?
Well, not really, because mainly because like it's very much because I think it's just because I'm very confident that the album itself will be a lot better than Mark of the Wolf. Like, even though we're very proud of Mark of the Wolf and we knew a lot of people liked it, there's I don't really feel pressure just because I'm very confident that this new album will surpass it. So I'm pretty sure. So that's why I'm not that pressured by it. So yeah, I'm very excited for people to hear it.
Yeah. And I'm literally looking on your mail archives. I just saw that label that you were talking about for Port Royal. The label is called Burning Sun Records.
Yeah, yes, Burning Sun. I forgot. Burning Sun Records. I just forgot where they're from though.
They're from Hungary.
Okay, that's what I thought it was. Yeah. They're from. Yeah, they are Hungarian.
Yeah. They've been
Yeah. They're
active
Hungarian.
since 2018.
Yeah. And yeah, Zoltan, the guy who runs it's a good buddy of mine. He also used to, I don't know if he still does it, but he used to do Burning Sun magazine. He used to do a metal magazine with the label as well that he interviewed us for. I think somewhere I still have the copy of it. And yeah,
Nice.
I love him. It's just because he's very much just a huge fan of old school power metal and wants to honor it. Like, he loves his Halloween and his Running Wild and stuff like that. So he, does his best to do this stuff. As I said, he did those tribute albums. Like, he did a Halloween one. He did one of Gamma Ray, which we were supposed to be on, but we had to duck out. So then the next time, which was the Running Wild one, we did it. And obviously I like, and Running Wild obviously is a very special band to me. So that I'm very glad that we were able to do it. It's funny because I remember him telling me that when they did the tribute album that he was trying to use any connections he could to try and send it to Rolf and just to see if what he thought of it, but we never heard anything. So I'm curious to see if uh if he's heard it.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of what I also wanted to talk about like your songwriting because I one thing to talk about is like the lyrics because I know you mostly touch on themes of like metal, mythology, and horror. So when it comes to like making the lyrics, do you have to like put yourself in that certain mind frame to come up with those lyrics, or or does the lyrics just come like naturally and organically?
Lyrics wise, I think it's more. Yeah, I think it probably just comes more organically because I think a lot of times I try and again, when it comes to stuff like writing lyrics, I'm always learning and I'm always trying to top what we've done before. And in terms of the, in terms of lyric writing, I'm always drawing inspiration from people who who not just like from the power metal scene that obviously like we know as well. Like, I'm always trying to be able to be more eloquent and be able to paint a picture with words better. Like, for example, the person I think is the best at doing this is Adrian from Seven Spires. Like, if you
Yeah,
look at their
she's
lyrics, they're
amazing.
so intricate and so poetic, and I'm just like, I want to do that. I want to try and be able to try and write lyrics like that. So usually it's more just me trying to be able to write lyrics that flow well, that sound nice, and by sound nice I mean like, I'm someone, and this might make me sound like a little bit of a hypocrite because there's a lot of this on Mark of the Wolf, but like I'm someone that I want to try and get away from the whole very typical lyrics, like erg metal, blah blah. But yeah, no, but in terms of the lyrics that were on Mark of the Wolf, again, it was very much like a sort of this is an era, a time stamp of Lycanthro at this time because a lot of those songs, as I said, I wrote when I was very young. So, as I said, I'm very proud of those ones. But personally, it's like in terms of lyrics, I always try and go the more poetic route. If I had an idea of something I want to base a song off of, or a story, or whatever, I'd want to be able to do it in as eloquent a way as I can.
Yeah. And talk about like your guitar playing because I know you're very riffy, but also very technical a little bit. Do you like know like music theory? Do you know like what kind of skills that you're playing and stuff?
I'm terrible with music theory. I'm awful. Our guitar player Andrew's is way better with theory than me. Me usually it's just because I've been playing guitar longer than I've been singing. I've been playing guitar since I was 7, so it's one of those things where it's kind of like when like I remember seeing an interview with George Lynch, obviously one of the greatest metal guitarists of all time, and it was very much one of those things where it's like I've learned this stuff just over the years, just pretty much almost by muscle memory. Like I'd have a very hard time teaching someone a major scale, you know? Like
Yeah.
even though I know what they are, I'd be like, okay, so it's this and this, it's this, it's you know what I mean? It's so for me, it's just very much in terms of my playing, it has to do a lot with technicality, muscle memory, stuff like that. But no, I'm not much of a theory guy. Not much of a theory guy. Usually I have to consult guys like Andrew and John whenever I have something like that personally.
Yeah. Yeah, and talking about like singing and playing guitar, because I always like to ask like musicians that do both when it comes to like doing both at the same time, especially when it comes to like the writing of the song. Do you ever try to like practice being like, okay, where your vocals are and where your hands are per fret, like where you're singing like do 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 do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it's one of those things where it's like you'll have to try and recreate that live, you know. So that's always and the thing is that a lot of times when people, you know, would be like, oh, you know, playing guitar and singing at the same time, it's so hard. It's like, well, it's like any other skill, you know, it just takes time to learn. And I think in my case, I started doing it just because I started doing it from an early age. Because even though I didn't start learning singing properly until like much later in life, when I was learning guitar, I was also trying to sing stuff to it. So I think that was kind of just that slow build up over time of being able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and in terms of like playing live, is there like any similarities or differences between playing live versus like recording?
Oh, there's those are two completely different beasts, man. Playing live is very much the way I see it. Is even though you know obviously you have to be good at what you do in terms of being in like musicianship and stuff, but in my opinion, like technicality is for the studio and live is more to be a showman. You know, like that to me, that's putting on a good show is just as important as the musicality to me. When at least when it comes to live, in the studio, obviously you got to be like in the studio. A lot of people don't know this, but like you got to be very laser focused. You know, it's very hard to record. You know, and so it's because recording technology has become so sophisticated that you know a lot of the older albums that um this is something that I don't mean this to piss people off. It just goes to show how recording has come. Is if you put on an old, if though a lot of those old Iron Maiden albums were made today, they would not sound good because a lot of times, you know, recording technology and also our ears have developed a lot since like the 80s or the 90s. So recording now demands you know you to be completely on the top of your game in terms of playing and being laser focused because as much as people who don't play music like to joke about like duh auto tune duh this that you know it's like no I'd argue it's harder now than it actually was back then you know because you know cleaning stuff up in the studio can only fix so much you know
Yeah.
so you have to be like precise for recording now. Whilst
Yeah.
live, usually, you know, people will make the honest human mistakes and no one will notice. But people don't know. That's the thing about live. I noticed that, in my opinion, most bands need to focus on putting on a good show and getting the crowd hyped up because you know the crowd won't notice a missed note, but they'll notice if you're visibly awkward or nervous on stage, you know? So
Yeah.
that's in my opinion, that's the difference is that like your musicianship is for the studio, but not sacrificing that for live, but live is very much you gotta be very much, you know, a showman playing to the crowd.
Yeah. Do you ever have to like practice like crowd interaction?
I used to. I used to. Now I kind of just it kind of comes more naturally to me now just because I've played live so much, but usually what I do is if there's parts during the show where like I want to say a specific thing, I'll rehearse it. Like the allegory that I always use is I don't know about you, but like I'm a huge like wrestling fan
Yeah, I
and
love
I kind of
wrestling.
see
Hence, I had some like
sweet. So you
signed
know I know what
wrestling
I'm
stuff
talking
in the
about.
back.
So oh sweet. So
I have
you'll know
like
what I'm
Dolph
talking about then.
Ziggler and shit.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man, why'd they release him? Why'd they release him? I don't know.
yeah. It's just like Vince being Vince. It's just like WWE just being WWE. Just they
It's
might as well
Vince.
just get rid of like NXT since they want to like keep releasing good talent.
Yeah, it's Vince being Vince. But I always say in terms of playing to the crowd, I always kind of use wrestling as a example of these are guys who are masters of talking, you know? And so I always kind of treat whenever I talk to the audience as almost I'm cutting a promo almost.
Yeah,
You know, so even
layeth the
though
smackdown
yeah,
like The
exactly. Like
Rock.
I'll to the point where at our last show, and I don't think anybody in the audience got the reference, was I literally I did the Adam Cole thing during our last show where because I rehearsed in my head, I'm like, okay, for when I talk to the audience after the first song, I'm gonna make it about okay, so this show was supposed to happen a year ago, but you know, the plague kind of
Fucked everything up.
it fucked everything up. So because the story was that we were supposed to play with Unleash the Archers back in 2021, I think,
Yeah, the
when
homies.
when the restrictions were coming down. But here in Ontario, we were the last province to be brought out of
Okayed.
lockdown. And I'm only saying this because it's context to what I was telling the audience. So I kind of wanted to make the thing about you know we all suffered through this, but you know this show was supposed to happen a year ago, but it didn't. But now we're fine. Now we're all finally here, you know. And so I literally again I was expecting somebody, at least one person in the audience, to maybe like laugh or something, but no one did. No one got it. Was
Like
I said
crickets chirping.
who yeah, I was expecting someone to be like Adam Cole because I said, "Who's ready for story time with Lycanthro, baby?" And then I said that, and like nobody got the reference.
That's awesome, man.
I was
Holy
like, "Come
shit.
on, nobody here likes Adam Cole." But
I would have laughed my ass off if
yeah,
I
see,
saw
like
that.
I guess you would have gotten it, but like I was hoping at least one person would.
Yeah.
But but yeah, no, I was like I kind of treat that as sort of like talking to the audience, almost like a wrestling promo. You know, I feel like in my opinion, you know, that's something that I'll still see a lot of bands do that, in my opinion, is they need work, is like talking to the audience. Like, I've seen so many bands where, like, you know, they're really awkward, they don't know what to say. And I'm like, no, I feel like, you know, that's something that you have to kind of treat. I treat it like a wrestling promo. It has to be delivered with passion and conviction, you know, because that's what the audience feeds off your energy. If you're giving shit energy out, they're going to give you shit energy back, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's sort of what
Exactly.
that's sort of the golden rule with live, in my opinion, is you could be the greatest freaking musicians in the world, but if you are boring on stage, then the audience is not going to respond to you, you know. So it's very much you have to. That's why even like there's some bands like for example I went to go see Haken last year, and the opening band was Arch Echo, which I know they were supposed to play at Prague Power, but they didn't. And this is a band where they don't even have vocals. They're like a completely instrumental band, and they're playing some of the most difficult, intricate looking stuff that I've ever seen. And this is a band that could have so easily been just a really boring to watch prog band. But these guys were like jumping are all around the stage like a freaking like they had springs on their asses. They were throwing their guitars around, jumping around, and I'm thinking the whole time I'm thinking, holy shit, these guys are so they're playing all this crazy stuff. They're so entertaining to watch, you know. So that's my sort of opinion of that. It's like the golden rule is, you know, no matter what you're playing, you just got to be able to deliver passion and conviction to the audience. And if you get that, if you do that, you'll get it in return.
Yeah. And I also noticed like you played with like a variety of different bands. I know you mentioned you played with Hammerfall once, and then I know you did the last tour with our homies and Unleash the Archers and our homies in Luthar Road. So do you ever notice like a different like reaction depending on like different tours or shows that you play with?
Not really, because like I feel like you know the people who come see us will who they'll know us. They've kind of the thing I really like about our fans and our followers is that they kind of grew up with us almost because you know whenever we play in Ottawa, at least because we only recently started branching out and going towards because we don't play locally much anymore, obviously because the band's more spread out now. But
Right, covered more territories.
yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is that the people who were from Ottawa kind of grew up with us, and even Toronto and Montreal, because like when we were first starting out, we were like, we always knew that we weren't gonna be just a local band. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to branch out and play other places and tour. And so so a lot of these people who see us in Toronto or Ottawa, they kind of grew up with us. So we never really get much of a different reaction. And it's very much, as I said, the whole give and receive of the audience, where sure we've played shows that like some of the people watching, I could tell, didn't dig our sound, but they but I still saw them. If you play with conviction and play your ass off, then at least people will respect it. Like I very much remember the show that I remember that I thought this was hilarious was we got booked on a years ago. We got booked on a show in Quebec, and it was like it was a bill. It was us and all death metal bands. It
Oh
was all
wow.
Quebec brutal death metal bands, like kind of like Gore Guts, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Word of
I
that.
recently interviewed Luke. He's awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, like, and that side of the scene, I don't know that much about because I'm not much of an extreme metal guy. But yeah, we got booked on this show, and in our minds, we were younger, so in our minds, it's we're going to play to a new place. That's great, you know. But while we were playing, I could tell everyone's kind of looking at us like, why is he clean singing? You know, so
Visibly lost and confused.
yeah, there's like what, you know, so but yeah, no, as I said, it's very much just the energy you give out is the energy you receive. And even then, like a lot of that stuff on Mark of the Wolf is very thrashy. So my kind of goal with Lycanthro is I still want to, and again, Unleash the Archers is a perfect example
Yeah.
where I want us to be a band where, you know, even if you're like anybody in metal could enjoy it. That's my goal. Even though I still say we're under the power metal umbrella, you know, if you look at bands like Unleash the Archers or Blind Guardian or any of these bands who are from power metal, they're big. The reason why they're successful is because they have that crossover appeal, you know? Like those early Blind Guardian albums are all very thrashy, you know, they're all very heavy. Like they're like Battalions of Fear, I hesitate to even call a power metal album. It's
Yeah.
very much more like they have that album has more in common with like Forbidden than Halloween, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally put up there with that, and also put up with like Walls of Jericho by Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I think with most power metal bands there is sort of that like sort of gateway into, you know, the first album is usually very heavy, but then they kind of up their game more and more in terms of the songwriting and the melodicness and the hooks and stuff like that. And that's what I'm trying to do with us. So that's something that's sort of the end goal is that like I want us to be a band that everybody, no matter what genre metal you listen to or is your favorite, I will still want like it to be, you know, music that like pretty much anybody can appreciate. Like hell, I know people who don't even like metal who like Unleash the Archers, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing like that's when you know you have a good audience, you know? So that's very much what my goal for us as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. Agree, man. So kind of like in the end to sort of wrap things up, what's next with like Anthro? I know you mentioned you're working on the new album. Is there like any like shows or tours you'd like to plug? And is there a chance you can come down to the States to do a tour?
We're gonna try and do the States. So in terms of what's coming up next year, I can't say one of them yet, but I'll say this. We can't announce what it is yet because it hasn't been announced yet
Yeah.
on social media, but
You'll tell me when I turn off the recorder.
I will. I will. We're playing our very first Euro festival next year. I can say that. So we're gonna do a little Euro like mini tour in said area where the festival is. We're playing our first Euro festival. We're gonna try and do some small touring next year. We're gonna try and do like a few little Canadian runs. We're gonna try and come to the States for because there's a couple of festivals that we've been in talks with. Like we were supposed to play the States this year, but we weren't able to get our visas in time. It was just, you know, it was life got in the way, you know, as a lot of times it often does. We were supposed to play the Blades of Steel festival, and we were gonna it was supposed to be us, and we were supposed to play on the same day as like us and Riot V and Flossman Jetsam and stuff like that. But so yeah, next year we might be able to come to the States. We're gonna do our damnedest. We're playing our first Euro Festival. We're gonna do 1 or 2 small Canadian runs, and yeah, and then we're hoping that next year obviously is gonna be the big year for the album and doing as much as we could to promote that, and hopefully that will open a lot of doors up for 2025 to be able to go and tour on extensively. That's the plan, at least.
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, James. It's gonna be amazing.
Thank
So thank you, buddy, for taking your time to do this. It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out.
My final words will just be, just first of all, thank you very much for having me. You know, you and me met at Prague Power, and it's, you know, and we've obviously kept in touch on social media.
Oh yeah,
So
and you've been a great guy.
Yeah, man. So my final words is everybody watching, subscribe to Richard and go follow us, Lycanthro, on Spotify and Facebook and Instagram, all that good shit. And the only other final words I'll say is stay metal, my friends.
Yeah, true words. So everybody, James from Lycanthro, see you next time.